For the third time in this city series, we are heading to Texas, El Paso to be specific. However, since Juárez is right across the river in Mexico, I thought why not include them as well. So here are the stadiums and arenas of El Paso, Texas, and Juárez, Chihuahua. Beatty Simang Stadium. Texas loves their high school football and El Paso is no exception. The stadium's not quite as simple as it appears. The main or only stand is rather steep, which I like to see, and the rest of the field is surrounded by a grass berm, sans grass. It is in the desert after all. Sun Bowl. Some stadium names do all the work for me, because that is a perfect description for this stadium. It's a bowl stadium that gets a lot of sun. Well, I guess it's not a true bowl stadium. Back in the day there was nothing but grass berms behind the end zones, and they've since added seating, but it's close enough to call it a bowl. My favourite aspect of this place has nothing to do with that though. It would have to be the way the stadium appears to have been carved into the rocky landscape. In actuality it was not carved, but instead dynamited. They are called the miners after all. Kidd Field was the school's football stadium back in the day, but is now used for track and field. It's a lot smaller and a lot less spectacular than its football counterpart. But still, for an athletic-specific stadium, it's pretty good. Oh, and I like how they have a stone wall wrapping its way around some of the track. Just because, if one of the athletes trips and face plants into the wall, it will teach them to have a stronger face. Don Haskins Center. First of all, I'm liking this simple and clean exterior. That features even more stonework. I mean, they had to put all that stone that they blew up to good use, didn't they? Inside there's a single tiered layout without much in the way of complexity. The orange seats are nice, but the highlight is probably the court, oddly enough. In particular, the depiction of some of the rocky mountains that the area is known for. Trooper Stadium. This is quite similar to the first stadium we saw, without the dusty berm surrounding it. There are a few very similar stadiums in this city, so I'm not going to say too much about them. El Paso County Coliseum. This arena had a bit of a dark start to its life, opening in the midst of World War II, and actually housing Italian prisoners of war shortly after opening. It was initially intended to be used for rodeos, a Texas specialty, but over the years has hosted all sorts of different teams from different sports, including indoor soccer as you can see. Nowadays there's no permanent tenant, and on top of that, I believe Donald Trump still owes over $500,000 for the rally he held here in 2019, so business is seemingly not thriving. There's also the County Event Center nearby, which does host a couple of hockey teams. But that doesn't meet the capacity cutoff for this video. Estadio 20 de Noviembre. This is in Mexico of course, but its primary tenant nowadays is an American football team, Jefes de Ciudad Juárez. Prior to their arrival, the stadium was given a minor renovation, which included the addition of a gridiron and seemingly not much else. Highlander Stadium. This is another no-frills high school stadium, purely utilitarian in design, but of course there's the obligatory bit of stonework that seems to be written into the law in this city. Hutchins Stadium. This time it's a lot of red brick on show. That's really just the high school buildings that it backs onto. The stands themselves are pretty bare bones once again. Estadio Olímpico Benito Juárez. This stadium is located just across the Rio Grande on the campus of the largest university in the city of Juárez. But it's not a college football stadium. It's home to FC Juárez, a fairly new club that competes in Mexico's first tier. It's a pretty simple design compared to others in the Liga MX, but compared to the high school stadiums we've seen, there's a lot of features of note. including a little bit of roof coverage and plenty of chairback seats throughout. In fact, they recently replaced the seating at the ends from concrete benches to molded plastic seats. Alan Sepkowitz Stadium. Yeah, I'm getting deja vu. You might be surprised to hear that later we're going to see one of the most distinctive high school stadiums in the country. These basic ones do the job though, I guess. Franklin Stadium. Okay, at least this one does have one feature that sets it apart. The eastern side is built on top of this man-made rocky embankment, which looks kinda cool. Especially the way it tapers down to nothing behind the northern end zone. Rocket Memorial Stadium. They missed an opportunity to install a giant rocket behind one of the end zones. But I guess some of the school's funding has to be spent on learning and whatnot. Speaking of learning, did you know around 70% of the people in this city speak Spanish? You would have thought that due to the proximity to the southern border, it'd be Mexican that's the second most popular language, but no. Estadio de Baseball Juárez is the premier ballpark in the city of Juárez, and is home to the Indios de Ciudad Juárez, which I think translates to the Juárez Guardians. Anyway, there is one aspect to this ballpark that is fairly uncommon amongst American ballparks, and that is that it's completely symmetrical. Also, basically all of the seating in the main stand is under the cover of a roof. It's a rather nice all-round ballpark. Next door we have Estadio Cartablanca, which is the same team's old stadium that now hosts non-professional games. You know, the youth teams and whatnot. You can kind of see from looking at this that for their new stadium they just built a bigger and better version of Estadio Cartablanca. This one has no outfield seating, a smaller roof and no video board to speak of. Nice view though. R.R. Jones Stadium. This is not only the oldest stadium you'll see in this video, but it's got to be one of my favourite high school stadiums going round. I suppose they were limited for space and also had to contest with the sloping earth, but from lemons they made lemonade. This place is spectacular. The unique design does have a minor downside though, and that is that there is a higher than average percentage of end zone seating. But in this case, I think we can ignore that. Tom Work Riverfront Stadium. Is that the river they're referring to in the name? Looks more like a cul-de-sac for boats. Thought that was more of a Florida thing. Anyway, we're back to the relatively boring high school stadiums with this one. Southwest University Park. This ballpark is home to two teams, a baseball team, the Chihuahuas, and a soccer team, Locomotive FC. Two great names because the state of Chihuahua is just across the border, and the stadium backs onto some train tracks, ergo Locomotive. It was built on the site of the old El Paso City Hall. Oh, old El Paso. That reminds me, Juarez is where burritos are from. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank the people of Juarez for creating such a fine foodstuff. Thank you. Back to the ballpark. While it might not be as big as the one in Juarez, it certainly has a lot more going on, including multiple different seating options. Conquest Stadium. A perfect name for the home of the Conquistadors. But other than that, it's just another high school stadium. El Paso High is making all the other schools look bad by comparison. McKee Stadium. Well, this one is 67 years older than the last one, but you can hardly tell. It's just a little bit more built up and looks slightly better. Also more stonework. So those were the stadiums of El Paso and Juarez. Please consider subscribing if you're new around here, and as always, thanks for watching, have a good one.